He has been always very, very supportive. Please give him a round of applause. A very senior advocate of Nigeria. Our lead discussant, you all know him, Rear Admiral Jayola. He should be having what we call a dagger. Having passed through here and at the same time had been a very, very articulate writing staff. Today, you will hear so much about this range economy from him. Please give him a round of applause. Then we have Professor Odum here, who, in spite of the fact that he had some problems on the road, was still able to make it. We thank you very much, Prof. We learned that he has met so many professors. We hope that he will also add professorship to Jayola, who has so many master's degrees. And online, I'm sure I spoke to Issa Aremu, the DG Labor Studies in Kwara. He couldn't make it because he has an official meeting. So many professors. We hope that he will also add professorship to Jayola, who has so many master's degrees. And online, I'm sure I spoke to Issa Aremu, the DG Labor Studies in Kwara. He couldn't make it because he has an official meeting. So many professors. We hope that you also add I think the technical show to Jayola, who has so many master's degrees. And online, I'm sure I spoke to Issa Aremu and the DG, the technical Labor Studies in Kwara. He couldn't make it because he has an official meeting. So many professors. We hope that you also add I think the technical show to Jayola, who has so many master's degrees. And online, I'm sure I spoke to Issa Aremu and the technical place on it. Thank you very much. I think I want to thank you so much for the looking very calm. This is the first time the Aani ESCO is coming after the breach in NIPS. And that is why I came with a very powerful team to congratulate you for being very resolute and resilient. Because when the incident happened, I discovered that you were saying in plenary. That is what MNIs are made of. You already have MNI even before you graduated. We are very lucky to be part of this. We used to call MNI Mafia Nigeria Incorporated. Why? Because we have so many persons of this particular class who have distinguished themselves in the various activities in this country. We've had 3 heads of state. I don't need to recount. During the COVID era, you won't believe it that NIPS was still operating. We defied all those things that try to derail our focus. So I want to commend on behalf of the Alumni Association, the DG and the team for keeping the flag flying in spite of all those distractions. I want to focus that this institution works primarily with discipline. And I'm happy that discipline has been restored. And of course, we will not close our eyes to tolerate any act of indiscipline, because any country, any organization or persons without discipline would definitely not make it. So discipline is one of our forward, and I'm happy that all of you are disciplined. You came in here on time, and then you have comported yourself so well. I want to thank the DG. In 2022, institutionalized the Distinguished Alumni Lecture Series. This is the 5th on the series. The first one was on good governance and consolidation of democracy in Nigeria, which was delivered by Issa Aremu. The second one was in 2023, the sustainable industrialization of the Nigerian economy, prospects and challenges, which was delivered by Engineer M.G. Umar. Then we had also the third one, which was on leveraging digital economy and youth empowerment for sustainable job creation in Nigeria, issues, challenges, and opportunities. by my good friend Olufemi Oweyemi, who is the Secretary General of the Alumni Section of Lagos State Chapter. The last one before now was sensitizing the polity on the benefits and opportunities of the blue economy. Today, we have the orange economy, which is a creative economy. I will not dwell much on it because we have a lead discussant who will talk so much about it. For every alumnus, NIPS is more than an institution where we spend 10 months. It is where our perspectives were broadened, our strategy thinking sharpened, and our commitment and national service strengthened. We are therefore delighted to return to this distinguished institution today. On behalf of the National Executive Committee and the entire membership of Aani, I warmly welcome the DG and the rest of members I've earlier introduced. The Alumni Lecture Series reflects Aani's commitment to giving back to NIPS, engaging current participants, and contributing our collective experience and intellectual capital to the resolution of important national challenges. This year's theme, the Orange Economy and Entrepreneurship for Sustainable Development in Nigeria's Security as a primary enabler, could not be more timely. I commend the government and President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for choosing this very, very important topic. We are now going to think out of the box. You find that many countries now are moving towards the orange economy, which has to do with what? Creative economy. Nigeria is filled with a lot of talents. We have our Nollywood that is second to Hollywood in the whole world. Our GDP is, I will not go into details because these are details that the lead presenter will give to us. So I commend the government for choosing this very important topic. Nigeria possesses immense creative and entrepreneurial potential, particularly among our young people. Our music industry, fashion, literature, digital content, and other creative industries have demonstrated that capacity to generate employment, wealth, global recognition, and national pride lies within ourselves. The challenge is to transform this potential into a sustainable economic ecosystem supported by skills, finance, infrastructure, digital connectivity, intellectual property, protection, and success and access to the markets. However, none of this can thrive without effective and proper security. Security is not merely a component of development, it's an essential enabler of development. Insecurity discourages investment, disrupts businesses, limits mobility, and undermines the confidence necessary for entrepreneurship and innovation. It is my sincere view that today, our participants who are ably and carefully selected, you see, when I was here 19 years ago, we were just 60. Now the demand for this particular program is getting beyond expectation. Today, we have prominent Nigerians, the head of service, Commander General Civil Defense, Corps Marshal Road Safety, Chief of Defense Staff, and so many Nigerians, so many PAMSECs. About 7 heads of services from the states are all MNIs. So you find that his place provides you the skills, the talents. But one thing I want to leave with you is the ability to be closely knitted. You must be your brother's keeper. That's what makes us different from others. Once again, I welcome you all, and we wish you a stimulating and rewarding engagement. And thank you. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Please, let's appreciate our president one more time. Thank you very much, sir, for that opening remarks. May I now respectfully request the Director General of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Professor Ayo Omotayo, to please come and make his remarks too. I have to raise the microphone up completely. Let me just stand it.
Thank you very much. Good morning, participants. Yeah, let me start by looking at this side of the podium and thank the distinguished members of the National Institute who are all wearing their badges. I think you need to clap for them. Today, when I entered the holding room, I saw everybody there was wearing a yellow badge. I said, God, when is my yellow badge coming? Participants, I don't want you to be deceived. When the president came on, he said that you are already MNIs. Can we all stand up, please? Please, can we all stand up, participants? If you think, I'm waiting. If you think you're an MNI, please sit down. The president said you are already MNI. So if you think you're an MNI, you can have your seat if you think you're an MNI. Rufai, are you an MNI already, sir? No, sir. Thank you very much. You can have your seats. Well, I'm going to start by thanking the members of the ESCO of Aani for the support they gave after the attack was reported. To be candid, I got the highest number of calls that I've ever received in my life. I found that Nigerians bother about, yes, we bother so much about survival, much more than achievements. Everybody was calling to be sure that participants were safe and asking if the DG was also safe. And I think it shows the love that the alumni all over have for the National Institute. Mr. President, I really appreciate the love and the concerns that you showed. I also appreciate the fact that you convened a meeting to look at our security situation. And I want to believe that the findings and recommendations based on that meeting has been passed on to the quarters for implementation. We are still looking forward to the implementation of some of the promises made by government. I commend participants just like the president did for your calmness, even while under attack. Consistently for 6 different times we were under attack, but participants still stood their ground, saying that we will not be deterred, we will not be discouraged. I think you can take that home when you live here, that it is not going to be easy all the time for Nigeria, and that it is those who stand by Nigeria that will benefit from eating the fruits of the land. I have a speech to read, but I'm not sure I'm going to read that speech. And I'm going to just say that a few of the things that I would have loved to say, the president has reiterated them. And I would just want us to listen intently. One thing is important: we will sustain this relationship. between the National Institute Management and the alumni. I instituted this course about 5 years ago, 4 years plus, because I want a formal way by which the umbilical cord that ties the alumni members to the institute to be tenuous and not severed. This is an occasion for the alumni to run. And you saw the way they were so much into it from the start. They didn't make it look too much like a plenary. General Idris did not look at participants grimly. It was not stern. And then when the president came, he was trying to throw jokes. It is because it is their show and they will run it the way they want. And that's why I'm seated there, sitting calmly, because I'm not an alumnus. And those of you who are here are hoping to become alumnus of the Institute, can learn from what they are doing. This is your association. Those of you who are willing to wear the yellow badge, you can see that the gentlemen here and those who are here who are already wearing yellow badge have made a whole lot of sacrifices. You know what you are currently going through. And it is because we want distinguished Nigerians to be produced out of the Institute, those who will change the narrative for our country. You are experiencing first class what it takes to be a leader in this country. We are beginning to see that the easiest thing under the sun is to open your mouth and criticize, because when people don't have enough information, just as you do, they can say anything they want to say. You are beginning to learn how to be emotionally stable, even while you are under severe attack and people are expecting so much from you. I believe we are going to go back to organizations, better persons. We are going to go back to organization with the mind of changing the narrative for the organization and hopefully for Nigeria. For those who write negative narratives about the National Institute, it is because it is not everybody that will have the opportunity of wearing the yellow badge. And a lot of people will want to wear that yellow badge without making the sacrifice that is necessary. Mr. President spoke about discipline. Discipline is the hallmark of everything. Individuals that cannot be disciplined cannot achieve results. You cannot run your organization properly if you, as a leader, is not disciplined. So I believe all the narratives some people might write about the Institute concerning the discipline that we try to entrench here should be put in the perspectives of those who wish that the Institute does not uphold what it is supposed to be. I want to say that under my leadership, even at the cost of everything I own, this institute will not in any way be sullied by any actions of mine or by anything. My colleagues in the university may not agree, but the National Institute is far bigger. I came from the university, it's far bigger than the universities. And we keep saying that this is the last bastion of intellectual acuity that we have. We must defend it. Alumni association members will do so. And when you eventually wear the yellow badge, you must defend what the National Institute stands for. Today, we are talking about the origin economy. This is the third, I think this is the fourth theme that is addressing how Nigeria can get to the $1 trillion economy. And we are beginning to see why it is not as easy as you think to reach the $1 trillion economy. Even though the potentials are there, but do we have what it takes to tap the potentials? I've been working seriously to ensure that the recommendations on the blue economy made last year is implemented. But you can see it's so tough to get recommendations implemented because of certain structures that are in place that makes things a bit difficult. At the National Institute, we must continue to look for ways and means of ensuring that we implement the outcomes of our Pali reports. To be candid, if those outcomes are implemented religiously, Nigeria will do well. I believe we are going to eventually do better than we currently are doing. Yes, we are on the path of full recovery, and I believe we will reach it. Certain foundational changes that we have not been able to make in years have now been made, and we are building on that. We have a stable exchange rate. It might still go further down. A whole lot of things are happening, and I believe the National Institute will continue to stand at the forefront of ensuring that the change we expect happens. Now, because somebody wrote this speech, I will read a part of it so that you won't feel bad that he wrote a speech and we didn't talk about it. So let me quickly read part of it. As Nigeria seeks to diversify its economy beyond dependence on extractive resources, we must deliberately create an environment where innovation can thrive. Entrepreneurs can invest with confidence, and creative enterprise can compete successfully on the global stage. This is instructive. I hope participants are listening to this. This requires coherent public policy, effective institutions, investment in digital and physical infrastructure, protection of intellectual property, access to finance, quality education, and above all, a secure operating environment. Let me thank members of the subcommittee that looked at the file, who submitted the policy brief to me on how we can finance the creative sector. I'm reading that report and I want to commend them for a job well done. We are going to expose that your report to the larger audience of the participants, and we are going to criticize it. Mr. President, we found that one of the reasons why our creative industry is suffering is because we rarely fund concepts. Everybody wants a concept to be down before it is funded, but to get any thoughts to concept requires funding, and no bank wants to fund what is taught. They all want to see something before they fund it. And of course, it's affecting us negatively. So that committee looked at how those things can be funded. I made personal examples of how most of my thoughts are not funded because banks will ask you to get to a particular level before they fund. But to get to that particular level, you always have to need money. And what money is available for us, we don't really get those things. So these are precisely the kinds of interconnected policy issues that NIPS was established to interrogate. As Nigeria's apex policy think tank, the National Institute remains committed to generating strategic ideas that strengthens governance and improve national development outcomes. Through our research, policy dialogues, executive education programs, and stakeholder engagements, we continue to encourage integrated thinking on the complex challenges confronting our nation. Today's lecture is therefore both timely and necessary. I have no doubt that our lead presenter, Rear Admiral Emmanuel Ojayola, retired MNI, and I wonder why this appears to be the show of the Nigerian Navy. He's an MNI, he's a retired naval personnel, and we also have another gentleman, a Rear Admiral here also. So the Navy is very well represented. I don't know what is happening to Aani. I want to believe that Aani is not biased. Yeah? I want to believe you are not biased towards naval personnel. Aegis is behind me. Okay, two of you. Okay, let's move on. I'm equally confident that our distinguished discussants will enrich today's discourse with perspectives that will stimulate fresh thinking and practical policy recommendations. So we are looking forward to very practical ideas. Permit me to commend the Alumni Association of the National Institute for sustaining this important intellectual tradition. Your continued engagement demonstrates that membership of the NIPS family carries with it a lifelong responsibility to contribute to national development. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, every generation is confronted by defining questions. For our generation, one of those questions is this: How do we convert Nigeria's immense creative energy into enduring national prosperity? Participants, I'll repeat this. How do we convert Nigeria's immense creative energy into enduring national prosperity? The answer lies not in creativity alone, nor in entrepreneurship alone, nor in security alone, but in the strategic integration of all the three. When creative talent is nurtured, when entrepreneurs are empowered, and when security guarantees an enabling environment, innovation flourishes, business expands, jobs are created, and the nations will prosper. That, I believe, is the central message of today's gathering. It is my expectation that the ideas generated here will extend beyond this auditorium and find expression in policies that unlock the vast potential of Nigeria's origin economy for the benefit of the present and future generations. On behalf of the management of the National Institute, I warmly welcome you once again and wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you, and God bless the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
After a few moments, the GoTV logo will appear, followed by the setup screen.
I have to adjust the mic because I'm taller than the DG. Thank you very much, sir. Let's appreciate the DG once more.
The screen will change to automatic scanning. It will take approximately 6 minutes to scan available channels.
Let me also recognize all the distinguished MNI that have joined us from diaspora via Zoom. Please, let's appreciate them.
Insert the channel number for your region. This can be obtained from the GoTV website. At this point, you may
Please,
maximize
for the distinguished resource persons, the lead presenter will take 40 minutes. Other discussants will take 20 minutes each. May I, at this juncture, respectfully invite our lead presenter, Rear Admiral Professor Oyeleye Yayola, retired MNI.
Well, I have my bosses in the house, so I have to be careful. It's good to be back home.
Is an easy and convenient way to manage your GoTV account. Create codes, pay online, change package, and update your details, all for one place. Once you have downloaded the My GoTV app,
The Director General of the National Institute. There's only one National Institute. Professor Ayo Omotayo. My boss, the President and the Chairman of this occasion, Ambassador Emmanuel Ubi Okafo, MNI. And I have another boss in the house. Actually, he's my mentor, but he doesn't know because I'm monitoring from afar off. He's a past president and he's Engineer Mohamed Gambo. It's a pleasure, sir. Mohamed Gambo. Let me acknowledge the Director of Studies, the powerful force, and the engine mover. And I know most of the time the participants may not like her. It's natural. We know what it takes. Madam Nima Salma Man, MNI. I hope I got it right. Then the discussants of today, Comrade Issa Aremu, MNI, Professor John Wade, MNI. I know we have our very senior distinguished members. MNI is in the house. My boss is in the house. So I have to know the way I behave. Otherwise, the parade can change. Then I have some godsons I know if the firework becomes too much, I can transfer to them. SK, it's a pleasure to be home. Let me acknowledge every distinguished members in the house, particularly the distinguished members that are online. I'm told we have quite a number of our distinguished members online. Then I need to recognize the members of the directing staff. We used to be on the other side before, and we throw firework from the back there. I can see quite a lot of them. Senior research fellows in the house, let me acknowledge you. And of course, all our staff. I could come across so many of the support staff members here. And last but not the least, members of the participants of the Senior Executive Course 48. You don't want to clap for yourself? I know that the challenge of saying maybe you have your MN, the I is yet to come, or you have I, the others are not to come. The president has said a lot and the DG had buttressed that, so I don't need to say much. One thing that makes us thick is that the MNI stand out. Whenever we are, we stand out. And we hope you'll keep the flag flying. And like I did say, for me, it's good to be back home. Having been accorded the status of the son, I think I'm the only person they refer to as the son, because Baba Jank gave me that title in 2012 when I was a participant. So I remain the son of the soil. So it's good to be back home. I want to acknowledge and appreciate the DG once again, the planning team for the privilege of being invited as the lead presenter for the 5th Distinguished Alumni Lecture Series. Indeed, for me, this is a privilege I do not take for granted. Thank you very much, sir. The theme for this year is Orange Economy and Entrepreneurship for Sustainable Development in Nigeria. Security as a primary enabler. I dare say this theme could not have come at a better time. Noting that the increasing global recognition of the creative economy, often described as the orange economy, has opened up new pathways for inclusive growth, employment generation, innovation, and cultural diplomacy. So we're going to dive into some of these things. I'm sure that various lectures, teachings, visits speaks to this. But within the next 35 minutes, because I spent 5 minutes doing the greeting, we'll look into this properly. Please, if your eyes are dimming a bit, you're allowed to stand up and stretch. But it's important that we follow through so that our discussion time will be lively. By way of introduction, Nigeria's development trajectory remains marked by a paradox of abundance and vulnerability. On the one hand, the country possesses substantial natural resources, a large domestic market, a useful demographic profile, and considerable cultural and entrepreneurial dynamism. On the other hand, the country continues to grapple with persistent insecurity, high youth unemployment and underemployment, weak industrial diversification, institutional fragility, and deep regional inequalities. These structural challenges have intensified the search for alternative pathways of growth that is capable of promoting inclusion, resilience, and sustainability. And one of such pathways lies in the orange economy, a concept used to describe the economic activities associated with creativity, culture, intellectual property, and innovation. Globally, The creative economy has emerged as a
Why
significant
did you
contributor to employment, export earnings, urban regeneration, and social inclusion.
Have you called him?
In developing context, especially, it
Is there a
offers
class? Are
possibilities
you in the Google
for
class? Why didn't you
labor-intensive,
write in the Google class?
youth-driven, and
You
knowledge-based
write in the Google
knowledge
class, you will see.
that may complement traditional sector.
So if
For
you write in
Nigeria,
the class, you will see.
this
You don't
is
have the number,
particularly
fine.
relevant.
The Google class is
The
available.
country's film, music,
You have written in Google.
fashion, publishing, digital media, craft, cultural tourism, and design sectors reflect substantial creative energy and growing international visibility. You'll agree with me that Nollywood remains one of the world's most prolific film industries, while Nigerian music and fashion increasingly shape cultural consumption across Africa and beyond. Yet, this promise has not translated fully into broad-based sustainable development due to multiple ecosystem constraints, among which insecurity is especially significant. This lecture therefore advances a central proposition, and that is the fact that the orange economy can serve as a viable pillar of sustainable development in Nigeria, but only if entrepreneurship is deliberately enabled and security is treated as a foundational public good rather than a peripheral concern. In doing justice to this, my analysis will proceed by conceptualizing the orange economy, linking it up to entrepreneurship and sustainable development. Then we examine in Nigerian context and demonstrating why security is a primary enabler for its expansion. I know what we do in NIPS, and I know a lot of concepts would have come out, but I'll give a guiding frame of my concept of orange economy, which may not be different from what most of us have discovered anyway. The notion of the orange economy is closely aligned with the broader idea of the creative economy, which refers to sectors in which value creation is derived substantially from creativity, ideas, symbolic content, intellectual capital, and cultural assets. Butrago and Duce, don't mind me, I'm an Ekiti man. I may not pronounce it the way it is, but these are intellectual scholars. In a widely citation formulation, defined the orange economy as the group of linked activities through which ideas are transformed into cultural goods and services, whose value is determined by intellectual property. This conception encompasses a broad range of sectors, including music, film, audiovisual production, performing art, visual arts, fashion, architecture, and publishing. Other sectors are advertising, digital, media, gaming, software-related creative services, and cultural tourism, as well as craft and heritage industry. What unites these sectors is not simply their artistic content, but their dependence on creative labor, symbolic production, and intangible value. In this sense, the orange economy challenges conventional development models that privilege extractive and industrial sector while underestimating the economic potential of culture and creativity. In some of the literature, some features of creative economy are quietly identified. And first is that it is strongly connected to human capital and innovation. Second is the fact that it often exhibits low to moderate entry barriers, especially digitally mediated subsector, making it attractive for youth enterprise. The third one is it generates spillover effect across tourism, urban development, information technology, education, and marketing. Fourth is that it contributes not only to income, but also to identity formation, social cohesion, and soft power. For developing countries, the orange economy has become increasingly important because it allows participation in global value chains without requiring the same level of capital intensity as traditional manufacturing. However, the sector's growth is highly dependent on enabling institutions, infrastructure, legal framework, and security conditions. Now, let us look at one of the variables, entrepreneurship as the operational engine of the orange economy. While creativity provides the raw materials of the orange economy, classic notion of entrepreneurship as the introduction of new combination remains relevant here. Since creative entrepreneurship innovates by transforming ideas, talents, and cultural assets into products, services, and business model. Creative entrepreneurship involves more than artistic production. It includes opportunity recognition, product development, business model designs, branding and marketing, as well as financing and revenue mobilization. Others are intellectual property management, digital distribution, market expansion, and enterprise sustainability. The distinction between talent and enterprise is important. A society may possess abundant artistic talent, yet fail to realize developmental gains if such talents remain unsupported by market institutions, skills, and policy frameworks. The orange economy therefore requires a shift from informal creativity to structured entrepreneurship. This aligns with the wider scholarship linking entrepreneurship to development outcomes. Entrepreneurship contributes to job creation. It contributes to innovation, competition, and local economic resilience. In fragile or in transitional economics, it may also provide pathway for youth inclusion and social mobility. In the Nigerian context, where formal sector absorptions remain limited, entrepreneurship is creative industry. Entrepreneurship in creative industry can offer viable livelihood channels, especially for young people and women. However, entrepreneurship does not emerge in a vacuum. As one of the scholars, North, rightly emphasizes, economic performance depends significantly on institutions, the rule of the game that shapes incentive and reduces uncertainty. Creative entrepreneurs need security. They need enforceable contracts. They need infrastructure. They need access to finance. They need digital platform, and they need regulatory clarities. Where these are weak, enterprise remains precarious. Equally on orange economy and sustainable development. The relationship between orange economy and sustainable development can be understood through several dimensions. Sustainable development, as articulated by the Brundtland Commission, refers to development that meets present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Over time, this concept has evolved to include not only environmental concern, but inclusive economic growth, social equity, cultural vitality, and institutional stability. From these, we have in identifying what I call the dimensions. We have the first dimension, which I refer to as economic inclusion and job creation. Creative industries can be labor absorptive and can generate various values across complex supply chains. A single film production, for instance, can engage writer, actors, producers, costume designers, makeup artists, sound engineer, transport provider, caterer, editors, marketers, and digital distributors. Similar multiplier effect exists also in music, in fashion. So that's the uniqueness. Then, of course, there is also the youth development and the social stabilization part. Nigeria's youthful population represent both a demographic dividend and a governance challenge. In context of high unemployment, excluded youths are more vulnerable to participation in violence, crime, and irregular migration. The orange economy can therefore support youth engagement by creating low to medium scale enterprise opportunities in culturally relevant and digitally accessible sectors. Then, of course, we have the dimension of gender inclusion. The creative economy also offers relatively accessible entry for women in fashion, in beauty, in media, in craft, in food, culture enterprises, publishing, digital entrepreneurship. With appropriate policy support, the sector can contribute to women's economic empowerment and leadership drive. And we can see that taking place in our climb for now. I'm sure when we get to discussion time, these are areas we can explore. Another dimension is that of the cultural preservation and identity. Unlike some development sector that displays local identity, the orange economy can simultaneously generate income and preserve heritage. Traditional craft, indigenous performances, local cuisines, languages, and festivals can be adapted into commercially viable yet culturally respectful enterprise. I mean, we know what we do with our Argungu Festival. We know what we do at Osun Osogbo and several other places. These are things that could generate. And of course, I'll say the urban and regional development. Creative clusters and cultural districts can support several urban renewals, local tourism, and community development. Cities around the world increasingly use creative industries as tools for place branding and regeneration. In Nigeria, these potentials remain underutilized. Thus, the orange economy is not simply an auxiliary entertainment domain. It is a multidimensional development space with relevance for sustainability, inclusion, and resilience. Now, how do we situate all this to Nigeria? The Nigerian opportunity structure, I call it. Nigeria is well positioned to benefit from orange economy. Several structural features support this claim. First, the country has a large youth population, many of whom are digitally connected and culturally expressive. As at last count, even from Mr. Vice President, we know that over 70% of the Nigerian population are below the age of 30. And when you have a country of a youth bulge population, it's an advantage we can take. The second one is that Nigeria possesses vast cultural diversity, producing rich reservoirs of music, storytelling, craft, dress traditions, cuisines, and performance form. The third part is that Nigerian creative products already demonstrate strong regional and global appeal. Nollywood continental footprint is there. The global rise of Afrobeats, the influence of the Nigerian comedy and skit production, and the growth of local fashion brands indicate existing market traction. For those of us that witnessed the last World Cup, our Burna Boy was on stage performing. And if you travel to any part of the African countries, you are addressed by your Nollywood, whatever. So that in itself is an opportunity that is available for us to explore. The fourth is the digital platform that have produced barriers to production of global distribution, enabling creators to reach audience directly. However, despite this trend, the sector remains constrained by a number of structural weaknesses. What are those structural weaknesses? Infrastructural deficit, persistent power shortage, weak transport system, limited broadband quality in some areas, and inadequate creative production spaces increase operation cost and reduce efficiency. Then access to finance is another barrier. Creative enterprises often struggle to access formal credit because financial institutions perceive them as risky and because many operate informally without collateral or proper financial records. There is also the weak intellectual property protection. Piracy remains a major challenge across film, music, publishing, and digital content. Weak enforcement of intellectual rights reduces income, discourages investment, and undermines professionalism. Another barrier is skills and business gap. While raw talent is abundant, business management, contract literacy, digital marketing, data analytics, and export readiness remain inadequate in our client. Then, of course, policy fragmentation. No fully coherent national orange economy strategy currently coordinates the works of ministries and agencies with stakes in culture, information, trade, communication, tourism, education, youth development, and finance. And the last, which is our focus part of the barrier, is insecurity. Amongst all these constraints, insecurity may be the most pervasive because it magnifies the effect of others. It affects mobility, it affects tourism, it affects public gathering, investors' confidence, and community stability. When I told some of my colleagues I'm coming to Jos, the first question is, are you sure it's safe? And when I told them I'm coming to NIPS, they said, is that not the place that was recently attacked? Then I told them that, one, I'm a son of the soil. Secondly, coming to NIPS is coming home. And I don't think I'll be attacked in my home. So it speaks basically to the challenge of security, which is the crux of these discussions. Security as a primary enabler. I'll first look at the theoretical and policy perspective. We have so many generals in the house, DG. I can see so many admirals, and I know that we have air marshals in the house. The only thing is that when we are in NIPS, We are not expected to wear uniform. So you may not see us openly, but we know ourselves. Security is often narrowly conceived in terms of territorial defense or crime control. Yet, contemporary security studies are broadening the concept to include human security, institutional security, economic security, and community safety. I'm sure we all know McNamara and his concept of security and national security. In development terms, security is the condition that allows individuals and institutions to pursue productive activity free from fear, free from coercion, and free from pervasive uncertainty. From an economic perspective, security lowers transactional costs, increases predictability, and supports investment. When I look at it from the entrepreneurial perspective, security shapes whether individuals can move, or whether they can gather or create market and scale their enterprise. From a creative economy perspective, security is indispensable because creative production often depends on physical mobility, public interaction, cultural events, tourism flow, digital trust, and long-term brand development. Security may therefore be understood in at least 4 mutually reinforcing dimensions. The first dimension is that of the physical security, which includes the safety from kidnapping, from robbery, from violent conflicts, from assault, and other direct threats to life and property. Creative ops, events venue, tourism sites, rehearsal spaces, and transport routes all depend on the minimum physical security. I've seen and we must have fallout of events that were called off as a result of threat to some of these things. Another dimension is the community security. Creative enterprise thrives in communities with trust and cohesion and predictable social order. Persistent communal conflicts, gang activity, and cult violence or cultural criminality erodes the social ecology required for cultural-based commerce. So when we look at the institutional side of security, we have the predictable regulations, contract enforcement, anti-corruption safeguards, and rule of law that reduce uncertainty for entrepreneurs, arbitrary closure, extortion, and inconsistent licensing regimes, which creates institutional insecurity. There are so many foreign investors that will have to think twice if they realize that the security cannot be guaranteed. If they know that you have institutional somersaults, there are no policy consistencies. Of course, there is the aspect of digital security. As more creative value is created and distributed online, cybersecurity, data privacy, digital payment protection, and anti-piracy system becomes very crucial. A digitally insecure environment can weaken revenue flows and trust. In this broader understanding, I dare say that security is not a sectoral afterthought. It is a developmental precondition. Coming home, how insecurity can constrain the orange economy in Nigeria. The impact of insecurity on the orange economy in Nigeria can be observed in multiple ways. First, insecurity reduces the viability of public events, such as concert, festivals, exhibition, and cultural gatherings. Organizers face increased costs for security, insurance and logistics, and contingent planning. In some cases, events are postponed, scaled down, or canceled entirely. Another constraint is that insecurity undermines tourism and destination branding. Cultural tourism depends on safe travel, predictable hospitality environment, and positive perception. Where destinations are associated with kidnapping, banditry, terrorism, or violent crime, of course, it's natural. The visitors' numbers will decline. The third one is the fact that insecurity affects mobility and production logistics. Film crews, artists, designers, and technicians, and marketers require transport between locations. Rural insecurity can also affect access to cultural sites, craft community, and festival circuit. I took some of my friends when we went to Ekiti, by way of digression. I took them to Ikogosi waterfall. And to my amazement, the cost per room there is about 150,000 per night. And getting to that place, the road was smooth, no problem, but people were afraid. So I tried to play one or two games by engaging some of them. How many visitors come around? And the lady said, honestly, we cannot break even. That most of the rooms are empty. Why? Because people are scared. I hear say, it be like say, then talk say. So most people don't want to endanger their lives. So that brings to fore the key aspects of security as it affects mobility and production logistics. And most of our Nollywood stars, they now localize themselves to major capital cities, depriving us the rich culture of showcasing the nation. This is an aspect that is of concern. The first one is the fact that insecurity weakens investment confidence. Investors are less likely to commit capital to creative infrastructure, hospitality facility, event centers, or regional tourism projects where risk levels are high. The 3-bedroom chalet that I paid 50 naira for in Ado-Ekiti will go for about 400, if not 500,000 in any capital city. So that's an example. There's also the persistent insecurity that produces psychological and social cost. What happens is that fear reduces experimentation. It reduces collaboration, and fear prevents long-term planning. Communities focused on survival are less likely to sustain vibrant cultural activities. So empirical literature supports the proposition that insecurity imposes every macroeconomic and every macroeconomy and microeconomic cost, reducing investment, productivity, and livelihood. I'll take that again. Empirical literature supports the proposition that insecurity imposes heavy macroeconomic and microeconomic cost, reducing investment, productivity, and livelihood. In the creative economy, these effects are intensified because the sector is highly dependent on visibility, movement, social interaction, and trust. Entrepreneurship, security, and prevention of instability. The relationship between security and entrepreneurship is reciprocal. While security enables enterprise, enterprise can only contribute to security by reducing exclusion and creating legitimate livelihood. This is particularly relevant in context where youth unemployment intersects with violence and social fragmentation. Development Security Scholarship has long noted the link between socioeconomic exclusion and instability. Although unemployment alone does not automatically produce violence, concentrated youth exclusion in fragile setting can increase susceptible to criminal recruitment, political manipulation, and antisocial behavior. By expanding creative entrepreneurship economy, states can widen legal income pathway and build social belonging. The orange economy is especially relevant because it aligns with youth aspiration for identity. It aligns with youth aspiration for visibility, for expression, and for autonomy. Creative industry can absorb diverse skill set from performance and design to digital editing, logistic promotion, and event management. They can also support local ecosystem that combines economic activity with cultural legitimacy. This suggests that promoting entrepreneurship in the orange economy should be seen not as an economic policy, but also as a component of preventive security governance. What then are the policy imperatives for Nigeria as I begin to round off? To harness the orange economy for sustainable development, Nigeria requires a coherent strategy that recognizes security as foundational. Several policy imperatives could then follow. One, to formulate a national orange economy policy. A detailed policy framework should define the sector, identify priority value chain, coordinate relevant ministries and agencies, and establish measurable targets for jobs, exports, inclusion, and innovation. This will reduce the fragmentation we currently experience and improve strategic cohesion. Another policy imperative will be integrating security into creative economic planning. Federal and state governments should treat creative clusters, cultural festival, tourism corridors, and digital entrepreneurship hub as economically strategic spaces requiring tailored security planning. This should include surveillance, emergency system, traffic management, and community-based intelligence. Another policy could be to strengthen local and community security ecosystem. Given the territorial nature of many security challenges, community-level trust and intelligence systems are essentials. Safe localities are prerequisite for festivals, rehearsals, film productions, and tourism. Then, of course, we need to expand financing for creative entrepreneurship. The DG emphasized on that. Development financial institutions, commercial banks, and public funds should design instruments suited to create business model, including revenue-based financing, innovation grants, and what I call an IP-packed lending where feasible. Then, of course, we must improve intellectual property governance, anti-piracy enforcement, digital rights management, faster dispute resolution, and stronger awareness campaign are necessary to protect creators and improve investment confidence. We need to build digital infrastructure and cyber resilience. Reliable broadband, safe digital payment system, cloud services, and cybersecurity awareness are essential for monetizing digital creativity. We need to encourage cluster-based development. State can build creative hubs around local strengths, fashion, craft, heritage, tourism, and digital content. Cluster-based development encourages specialization, and it encourages collaboration as well as regional branding. The last but not the least is to promote evidence-based policy and research. Institutions as NIPS, university research centers, should generate data on creative economies contribution to employment, exports, youth inclusion, and local development. Weak measurement remains a challenge in this sector. What are the implications for strategic leadership? For the participants of the distinguished alumni lecture and the participants of Senior Executive Course 48, this topic carries strategic significance. National transformation requires leaders that are capable of seeing beyond inherited policy orthodoxies. The orange economy demands cross-sector thinking as it touches on culture, touches on security, economies, digital governance, education, tourism, youth policy, and diplomacy. Strategic leadership in this domain requires three shifts. A shift from viewing culture as merely symbolic to seeing it as productive capital. A shift from seeing security as reactive force development to seeing it as an enabling architecture for human and economic flourishing. And thirdly, a shift from fragmented intervention to a whole of government and a whole of society approaches. The National Institute, as a premier strategic policy institution, is well placed to stimulate this reframing through research, dialogue, and policy influence. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, the orange economy offers Nigeria a credible pathway towards sustainable development, economic diversification, youth inclusion, and cultural influence. Its promises lies in the country's abundant talent, demographic dynamics, and expanding digital capabilities. Yet, creativity alone is insufficient. It must be matched by entrepreneurship, institutional support, and enabling policy. Above all, the orange economy requires security. Without secure communities, safe mobility, protected digital ecosystem, reliable institution, and investors' confidence, creative enterprise cannot scale sustainability. Security is therefore not incidental to the orange economy. It is a primary enabler. Nigeria policy challenge is to integrate this domain, to secure people and places, to support entrepreneurs, to protect intellectual property, to invest in infrastructure and scale, and to build a developmental strategy that recognizes creativity as a serious national asset. If this is done deliberately, then orange economy can move from the margin of policy to the center of Nigeria's sustainability development agenda. I thank you for listening, and I thank you for your rapt attention.
Please be seated. Thank you very much, sir, our lead presenter. Can we please appreciate him one more time? Participants, please take this lecture series very seriously. Harvest the key areas that will help in populating your Pali report for Mr. President come November, and also the subsequent discussions that will follow suit. May I, at this juncture, invite the first discussant for today's lecture in person of Professor John Waktinwadi, MNI. Prof.
The Director General of the National Institute of Strategic Studies, and members of staff, and members of the management staff. Sorry, the Director General of the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, and the management staff, President of Aani, National President of Aani and Chairman of this occasion, the Director of Studies, distinguished lead presenter, fellow discussants, distinguished Aani members, distinguished participants of SEC 48. Let me first start by sharing and conveying my sympathy and solidarity with the DG following the incidents that happened at the National Institute. For those of us associated with the Institute, we know what it means, and still we know what it takes to overcome these things. That the Director General, his team, and other security personnel were able to overcome it is commendable. We pray that this will not happen in future. Dear participants, these lectures, as it is said, is for you. I recall 24 years ago, in 2002, when I set foot at the National Institute as participant of SEC 24. I thought that I was coming for a senior executive course where I will be relaxing. Not until after going through the 10 months and going through the baptism of fire, I knew what it took. However, just like the Director General said, no matter what you are, even if you have a PhD squared, you must count yourself privileged to be in the National Institute. Because what they study here is completely different from the bogus academic that we do. Just like today, if you are a Director General and you have a professor in the university, yes, you are all professors, but there's a big difference because he knows what public administration is. And he knows what it takes to handle people. Now, NIPS is a place that teaches people a lot of things. In fact, it's a life, it sharpens your horizon for life. And once you go through here, there is nothing you cannot handle. And I believe, just like the encouragement you get, by the time the final I is dotted and you have the MNI certified, you are a potential ambassador, potential president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a potential governor, a potential ambassador. Just name it. And that is the truth. And that is why the training is not for granted. You can be a bloody fisherman like me, But if you are privileged to be here and you are trained, there is nothing that you cannot handle because of the nature of the training. The yellow economy or the orange economy that we have today, by the grace of President Tinubu, for some of us in the profession of the aquaculture and fisheries management, we know about blue economy over 30 years ago. Many countries had embraced it long ago. Nigeria has been ought to embrace it, just like the struggle now to embrace the orange economy is ongoing. But many heads of states ignore it. And yellow has its meaning. Apart from its beautiful color, it has its meaning. Meaning that is defined from what it is in terms of improved economy and other psychological meanings. And when the blue economy was introduced, somebody was asking, what has blue got to do? When after all, the blue thing is restricted to the ocean in the coastal region. And I laughed. I say, when we talk of blue economy, even inland water, fresh waters are involved, water resources, and you can't beat Nigeria as far as water resources are concerned. So it is something that came at the right time, and I hope that the yellow economy will also take shape in due course. Now, in discussing this paper, yes, I have 20 minutes. And what I will do is to speak to the paper. The lead speaker has treated it extensively, commendably. He has treated the essential ingredients of what is required. But permit me at this point to appreciate the invitation extended to me to the National Institute to be a discussant. I'm always grateful to you, Director General. And by accepting this appointment to come and serve, it's a way of supporting your administration. And I can assure you that I'll continue to support your administration. I also wish to express my appreciation that this is a return home, because anytime one is invited to NIPS, I cannot afford to put it down unless otherwise, unless for the reasons beyond my comprehension. Even though I was given this notice about a week ago, I took it gladly. And I felt that, well, by the grace of my being an MNI, it means that even in 3 days' time, the Institute can challenge me to a task, and I should be able to do it. So my first part of associating this thing is to appreciate. The second part is to look at the philosophy and strategic responsibility of a discussant. By being a discussant, first and foremost, I know that I'm not invited to crucify or subject the lead presenter to baptism of fire. But whatever observation or comments one makes is in good faith. Just like in NIPS, from the gate that as you step in, at least you are covered by the doctrine of non-attribution, which means giving you the courage to say it as it is. And once you are within the system, and by virtue of your training, the system takes responsibility, provided you don't do it in a togrish way. Now, the second, as far as any serious presentation is concerned, is the audience, you the audience. Apart from the fact that it is expected that you will learn from here, you will also get something and you can teach something. The third fact is, of course, the discussant. who tries to look at the paper and share in his discussion. Now, I try to look at this issue from 5 perspectives. First is to make a comparative assessment of issues. The second is to identify missing links in the course of the presentation. The third is to look at any shortcoming in terms of transformational changes. The fourth is vision for implementation. And fifth, strategic value added through the discussion. Now, in a critical assessment of this work, it is true that the the lead presenter has made an excellent presentation. Whatever shortcoming identified, some may be oversight, some may be as a result of even the absence of institutional and legal framework in the system. Just like in the course of looking at the work, I've been able to identify about 14 missing links in terms of what needs to be implemented. But these missing links cannot be blamed entirely on the presenter. By the time you see the missing links, you will see that it is thrown back to the federal government as a challenge in order for the orange economy to take off successfully. Now, the merits of the lead paper that I found here are, first, it addresses an emerging global phenomenon that remains relatively underexploited, like given the great potentials in Nigeria. Secondly, it successfully integrates entrepreneurship with sustainable development rather than treating them as unrelated concepts. That is very important. Thirdly, it situates the orange economy within the Nigerian development aspirations, thereby enhancing its policy relevance. By enhancing its policy relevance, it's a call to duty on the government to look at whatever recommendations that will be made for it to embrace this yellow economy, given the vast potential of Nigeria, the human resources, and so on. Fifthly, it stimulates interdisciplinary thinking by bringing together economic security, studies, entrepreneurship, and public policy. You see that the yellow economy is a subject matter that embraces economics, philosophy, geography, science, engineering, and so many things, cultural activities, and so on. So it's a multidisciplinary thing. And if it is something embraced, almost everybody will be involved. Nobody will get idle. Even this unemployment thing will be overcome. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, it opens an intellectual space for broader national conversation regarding the future architecture of Nigerian economy. So having about 6 good takeaways from the paper indicates that the author has done very well. Now, for want of time, I have generated fundamental questions on interrogation, not as baptism of fire or mere academic exercise, but to add value. And for some obvious national challenges, I desperately I dissipate energy on two fundamental issues: implementation and implementation strategies, and the issue of institutional and legal perspectives of governance. And I'll be taking a very fundamental issue which has to do with a law signed by the last administration. Now, when responding to question 1, like I said, question 2, missing links in the lead paper. The missing links I find in the lead paper, which you will appreciate, are not entirely because the author was lazy or he refused to embrace them, but they are also associated with the federal or state government. Now, the first one is absence of clearly articulated national vision. There is no clearly articulated national vision for this very aspect. Then there is the aspect of grand national strategy over a number of things with respect to issues that affect the yellow economy. When we look at the definition of the of the orange economy as given by the lead author, which is a universal definition, and which he has tried to relate it to the Nigerian, contemporary Nigerian situation, associating it with culture, creativity, large youth population, then you find that there is no very clear directives on it. Then we have limited institutional architecture. We have weak monitoring and evaluation framework on quite a number of things. They are on paper, but they are hardly monitored, and that is why when projects are started, they are easily shut down. We have weak legal legislative reform agenda. Up till now, we still maintain the colonial even when they are due for changes, and we have all the capable hands to do these things. Then one critical aspect is the absence of national leadership development and succession framework beyond the not too young to run. Like I said, from this, I've been able to identify two key things, and for one time, I'll take them. The first one is the issue of implementation. I think it's very important for a national institute or any institute of policy and strategic studies, when you confront it with any issue, the first thing it tries to get at after getting the situation report is, what are the recommendations? And when you ask about the recommendations, the next thing is, how do you recommend? How do you implement the implementation strategies? This is very dear to the National Institute. And we need to spell that very, very clearly in the paper. I've tried on my own as a contribution to also identify the strategy in depth and quite a number. And apart from these implementation strategies, what are the timelines involved? Do we take a 10-year plan to see how the yellow or orange economy will work, or 15-year plan? And if we take the 15-year plan, from the first year, what are the essential ingredients? All these things need to be incorporated in the paper. So implementation strategy is very important. I recall in 2002, during our set, you all recall the Bakassi saga. Just like the presidency can throw any challenge to you at any time. And my dream of coming to take coffee in a senior executive course was also shattered that time, because the federal government threw the challenge to us after the court verdict. You recall the shouts through the press, people were saying we should go to war with Cameroon and so on. And that time, the Mr. President remained very calm. So it was sent to us. And our directing staff, everybody trooped in the dining hall. The chief of naval staff, the chief of air staff, all the service chiefs were sent. In the afternoon, they briefed us. The military situation, the everything, nothing hidden. Yes, Nigeria can go to war with Cameroon. We can deal with them using the ground war. But at that time, I think virtually the Air Force was incapacitated by Babangida during the attempted coup. And it was just coming to life. Meanwhile, France was praying that we go to war so that they will help Cameroon. We got all the raw data, did the analysis, went to bed. We were dismissed from that by 3 a.m. And by 9 a.m., reports typed were supposed to be turned in. And I'm sure you go through this discipline up till today. We had to learn it the hard way, so many things. And by the time you do that once, twice, who says that you cannot handle any emergency situation? That is the beauty of NIPS. So spelling these things out in the implementation is very, very important. This is just one example. Then coming to the second aspect, I've been worried. Even though it wasn't mentioned, but I just saw it as one low-hanging fruit that is worthy of mention and consideration by the participants and the National Institute. This not too young to run. They're not too young to run. If you study the law, read between the lines. Yes, it's beautiful. At 25, you can contest to be chairman of local government and all these things. At 35, you can aspire to be a Mr. President, provided you have a secondary school distance. So what it implies is that at 25 or 35, anybody, even let's say a baby graduate, can wake up to say that he wants to be Director General of NIPS. He wants to be a Vice Chancellor. He wants to be a governor. When if you put him on that seat, he doesn't even know how to start minuting in a file. In other words, the law is very, very silent on leadership, on mentorship training. Even though the lawyers will tell you that usually when laws are enacted, there is always a clause at the end that you can add something and all these things. But I believe that if you want to strengthen such a law, there should be leadership training. In many advanced countries, you find by the age of 25, given the scheme and how they train their people, allow them to go through some leadership training. By the time somebody gets to 30, 35, he's ripe to become prime minister, president. Macron became one of the youngest presidents in the world. He was one time a young boy, always in a Ajegunle playing around as a diplomat in Nigeria. That's how they bring up their people. But ours, there is nothing like that in that law. Now, my thinking is that the law should be reviewed. And there should be a very strong recommendation on that. It's very important because to say that you are not too young to run is as good as saying too that you are not too old to learn. They must be put through some learning skills. The National Institute, I'm aware, has a leadership training this thing. Some run for 1 week, which many state governments send their, I think just of recent, the Plateau state government sent some of its permanent secretaries. And I know that when you are privileged to come to NIPS for 1 week, and from morning to evening, you go through different subject matter, you will come out a different person. I told the permanent secretary that. You know, so it's very important. And I thought that even if I'm to come and speak as a discussant on these two issues will surface. However, there are so many recommendations I've made with respect to this leadership development at different strata. And I believe that if it is pushed very well, it will now be mandatory for the federal government to be sending some people to some of these leadership training institutions. We have the Citizenship and Leadership Training School. We have the National Institute, depending on all these things. If you win an election as a governor, nothing wrong for you to come here, just like appointed ambassadors go through some orientation before they are deployed. Come to NIS and stay for 1 week, for 1 month or 2 months before you are sworn in. And you'll see the difference when you go to the office. I'll still share my other detailed discussion with the director, the director general. And on this note, I want to sincerely congratulate the lead presenter, congratulate the director general, the alumni association members, the participants. It's good to see MG here today. He's looking younger than I saw him even 24 years ago when he was our national district, very, very active and always active and contributory to issues. May God continue to live you long. So I thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Please be seated. Please, let's appreciate our erudite professor for that wonderful inputs. The next and last discussant is Comrade Aremu, who will join us via Zoom. Control, are we ready? Control.
This will go background.
Okay. Sir, can you hear me, sir? Comrade Aremu, can you hear me, sir? MNI.
Well, I can hear you.
Please, you can
Are
go
you
ahead.
hearing me?
Loud and clear. You have 20 minutes, sir.
So that's Idris. Is that Idris? General Idris?
Yes, sir. Sir, can you hear me,
Who
sir?
am I speaking with?
I am.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. I can hear you, although I can't see. I can also see you. I can hear you.
Okay, sir. You have 20 minutes for your input, sir.
I can see you and as well as hear you. Can I go ahead?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. I think to save time, because it's been a day long, I will like to adopt all the outstanding recognitions and compliments. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
Loud and clear, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, so I would like to adopt all the outstanding recognitions, and compliments. But in a special way, let me congratulate the Director General for keeping faith with this distinguished lecture series, which he initiated. I had the privilege of being the first to give the lecture, I think 2022, if I can recollect.
But now I'm here online to be a discussant. I would have loved to be there physically because there's nothing like returning back to NIPS, our alma mater. I know my president has extended compliment to me, Ambassador Emmanuel Okafor MNI. But it's not the same thing if I'm on grant. I think I deserve my Zobo on grant. He knows what I'm talking about. So without wasting more time, I hope you are hearing me because I can't see any movement online here.
Go
I
ahead,
hope you
sir.
are hearing me.
Loud and clear. We can hear you. All of us are hearing
I
you.
hope you can hear me. Okay, excellent. I think I will join my last fellow discussant to complement our Naval General, Jayola, for well-delivered paper. And I discovered that the privilege of being invited as a discussant has also given me the opportunity to know so much about orange economy. I like orange so much, but I never knew that it could become metaphor for a whole economy of talent, of innovations, of diverse sectors that cover music, filmmaking, performance art, fashion, social and cultural tourism, so it's extremely very educative for me. And I want to appreciate the DG to say that we should keep up this platform every year because it's also a source of education, not just for the participants, but even for members of the alumni, so that we can keep abreast with modern concepts. I absolutely agree with Rear Admiral Dayola with his proposition. The orange economy can serve as a viable pillar of sustainable development in Nigeria, but only if entrepreneurship is deliberately enabled and security is treated as a fundamental public good rather than a peripheral concern. That's a powerful thesis. I agree with that thesis, and I think he went at length to prove the relevance of this thesis. And I want to also add to say that orange economy cannot just serve as a viable pillar for sustainable development, but it's already serving as one. I listened to DG's opening remark that through diversification and value additions the orange economy offers, Nigeria, is certainly on the move towards $1 trillion economy. And why not 10 trillions if possible? I think what orange economy has brought out very well is the inexhaustible capital that is inherent in human beings. For so long, Nigeria, because of discovery of oil and gas, we have been hooked to hydrocarbons. Not only that, in recent time, we have moved to diamonds, gold. We have a lot of mineral resources we've discovered, but we've forgotten the real resource, which is human resource. And as China has proven, population is an asset, not a liability. I think Nigeria is a country of talent. We've seen it being displayed in music. We've seen it in filmmaking. Even when we couldn't qualify through football for the last World Cup. But the talent of our musicians put us on the world global map. So I absolutely agree that this orange economy not only has the potential, but we're already recording that potential. And as a labor man, I can say that we need to get the statistics very well. This is possibly the second largest sector that is employing workers, especially our youth. And I can even say it can become the largest, if we can create proper enabling environment for that. I said largest after public service, and of course the real sector of the economy. So I will want to say that I agree very well with the conceptualization of the economy as laid down by the lead presenter. And I also see the linkage between the orange economy and sustainable development. I agree with him very well that if we are talking of inclusion, I think this sector offers the opportunity, for us to engage our writers, our actors, our producers, costume designers, marketers, also in line with the Sustainable Development Goals, which calls for inclusion of everybody in economic development of respective nations. Of course, youths, most creators, content creators, they are youths, gender inclusion, this is also one sector that I think women are really competing very well in the creative sector, and I think you don't need much of barrier compared to the traditional sectors where there are a lot of restrictions. Yesterday I watched the Falcons, and I was so impressed the level of resilience and the talents inherent, that our footballers display. 10 times they have been champions of the World Cup, FIME Cup. And yesterday they came from behind to win and defeat Egypt 6-2, and they are women, which shows that this is one creative sector that we can really enable very well. When you also talk of the orange economy and regional development, I think unlike mineral resources in which we operate, that we discover all gold, diamond in our communities, this is one sector in which we all can parade musicians, talents in filmmaking, in performing arts, So if you are talking of true federalism, the gateway to it, I think it's also through orange economy that we can develop. Now, I find very interesting the lead presenters, itemizing some of the constraints, a number of structural weaknesses that can undermine the realization of the potential of the sector. And he listed 6 of them: infrastructural deficits, access to finance, weak intellectual property, policy fragmentation, of course, the real elephant in the room, insecurity. I think I will come to the insecurity later, but let me also add that as we are talking so much of the potentials we have in the orange economy in terms of job creations, in terms of value addition, contribution to the GDP of the country, I think we must also be a bit measured so that we don't romanticize the sector beyond the ordinary. And again, I want to point out here that for now, music industry, filmmaking, fashion making, they are mostly largely in informal sector. I think we have to be deliberate, to be intentional to policy to formalize this sector. And like any challenges that face informal sector, I think orange economy also has its challenges. First, informal work means most workers who work there, they lack formal contracts. They don't have fixed hours of work or standard employment status. I think we have to think of the labor dimension. Not only that, they are very low and unpredictable pay. Yes, there are few stars, actors who have made it, and we celebrate them. But out of one successful filmmaker, there are thousands of workers who work under them, who are work under appalling conditions. You recollect that even Hollywood in US in 2023, if I can recollect, the entire industry was shut down on account of strikes and protests under poor pay and low pay. So I think I will challenge senior executive course participant 48, who I can call orange economy participant, that I think they must find a way to look at how we can make the work in orange economy to be real, not just any job, but jobs that are secure, that are decent. Because between you and me, it's not that we don't have work already for our youths, but on account of low pay, insecurity, it is a work that made the workers to get more poorer. In fact, we now talk of working poor. So orange economy should be able to bring a new set of workforce that takes workers out of poverty, especially income poverty. And that means they need proper legal protection. As the case may be, there is need for social protection. And quick suggestions that I want to make is that we have to make effort to formalize the sector very well. I'm so happy the chief reformer himself, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I think one of the first moves he made was to see how to reform or repackage the Federal Ministry of Art and Culture, and I think it's added to the nomenclature, creative economy, if I can get it right. And you have a very activist minister, Annatu Musawa, who has been doing very well to reposition that sector. I think we have to partner with the ministry under the leadership of the minister, NIPS, and why not, even with my institute, because the labor dimension, our mandate is to promote labor education for decent work. I think we can partner together to see how we can work out policy framework to make work employment available in creative sector to be truly formalized, well protected, and the workers, they have to also have voice of their own. Already, I think we have guilds of editors, of artists, but they could be better organized in a way that we can engage them to see how, they can have value for their talent, in the labor market. I want to quickly chip it in, and I think the SEC participant can go and check that. ILO, of course, ILO is the International Labour Organization. It's the oldest agency of United Nations, established as far back as 1919. ILO, for the first time, has come out with a convention. A convention is like the guideline, legal framework to protect the workers in the world of work. In this one I'm referring to is Convention 193. It was passed in June this year, and is to protect the platform workers, where most of our creative actors are working. I think it would be nice to have a look at that convention and see how we can draw on it on how to protect gig, the ride hailing, delivery, online, content creators. That would be quite useful. And I think maybe in partnership with Ministry of Labor. So when you are writing your report, some of those policy issues you want to raise, I think the bottom line is not just to employ our youth in this sector, create jobs, add to our GDP, but make sure that through work, the workers have value for what they are working for. They are protected by law, and they earn their pay. Now, the last one is on security. I think just a quick one. You have to bear with me. It's been a long day for me to sit here. I also have other commitments at the office here. is on the issue of security, and I agree very well with the lead discussant, lead presenter. He did justice to the issue of security. And I also had my co-discussant who have spoken about that. But my quick comment on the issue of security is that I think we should avoid the pitfall of magnify insecurity challenges in the country. As members of national institutes, as privileged alumni who carry this badge, and I can see a good number of my colleagues there. President Emeritus, Engineer Umar, I can see you over there. I can see Chachagi very well, Vice President, during my executive, when I was a General Secretary. DG, it's never late. You can still have your badge after going through what we went through. But all what I'm saying is that our motto is towards a better society. So we cannot even be academic. And I think Professor Omotayo, I was so happy in your opening remark that this is a real citadel of learning, bigger than any university. So we cannot be too academic, with issues we are discussing. We need to tie our discussion to solutions. And I'm happy you raised the point that you need practical solutions. But in searching for solution on the issue of security, it's not just that it affects the orange economy, but it affects the entire economy as a whole. I think we should also create time, to reflect on how our government has been responding to insecurity challenges. And I think we should be deliberate to magnify successes being made. Very, very important. Successes being made. Not just now, but even in the past. I know when I think that's Donald Duke, when he was a governor in Cross River, he had this big vision on tourism. Yeah, we had Tinapa. I've been there with my family, and today it has come to stay. I think there's December shutdown, well, if you call it that way, but that's the December that people make a lot of money, out of tourism in Calabar. You also have the so-called dirty December in Lagos. Now, that shows that the country has been secured. It's not, there's no skyrocket. So if it has happened in other places, why can't we do it again? And I think today, we're also getting it done. There will be challenges anywhere in the world. The Americans show that even in the midst of war, which they possibly deliberately engineer, they can host the World Cup. It doesn't mean there are no challenges on security in the US, but that World Cup took place, in Mexico, in Canada, and I think we've done it. We can do it again. I want to say just the last point on this law security is that I think we must be deliberate to magnify successes being made. I'm quite impressed with the decision of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to break the jinx. We now have a bill to decentralize policing in this country for the first time. And like if it works out well, September 3rd, they're expecting the new bill to be assented by the president. Very, very significant. And I think NIPS, including all of us here, including the SEC, to see how we can improve on that bill to make sure that, because at the bottom, at the end of the day, is security, which is for all of us. I also woke up this morning to hear the refreshing news that, the victims of banditry in Kwara State, where I'm based here, have been released. We also know of the one in Oyo, Samfara, and co. I think as member of National Institute, we should amplify this effort that, yes, there will be security challenges, but what has been the response, of the government, and On the last note, I can rub this one in quickly. Once again, Professor Motayo, accept my solidarity. And I want to commend the leadership of NIPS, where the way you quickly responded. In fact, we can define NIPS to be part of orange economy, because this is where creative ideas, policies have been coming for years. So how have we been doing it? Since 1979, that we made the place secure. And in spite of the rascality of these charlatans who dare to invade NIPS, we fought back, and I think that's the way to go. I think I also had the lead presenter who made the point that we need a whole community approach to security. You know, all of us cannot fold our hands, and I'm happy what Aani has done under Okafor and the emeritus president to quickly give solidarity to our institute to protect. That's the way it should be. There will only be security challenges. You know, in fact, that's what makes a nation that is growing. But it's our response that is important. So I don't think we should be weighed down that with these challenges, orange economy cannot realize its potential. In fact, the real sustainable solution is for us to build a developmental state, you know, and the way to get youth out of criminality is to keep them engaged, you know, in real sector, in creative sectors of the economy. So we can't fold our hands, you know, and I think the spirit of the Constitution is that Nigeria should be a developed economy, you know, to creatively, to make it inclusive for all sectors, and also to employ our youths and get them off the streets of criminalities. So on this note, I want to see, these are the few remarks I want to make. General Idris, I think you introduced me very well. I accept the compliment, but the only thing you added to my hobbies, you say I'm a boxer. I am into boxing. How can I? Everything about me is minimum. Minimum height, minimum pay, minimum pocket. Maybe Omotayo can be a boxer. Certainly not me. I've been struggling through ideas, engagement, discussion, but not with my fists, which I don't have. I want to say good afternoon to everybody, or good morning. It's not yet 12 o'clock. These are just my few remarks. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir, for your comrade intervention. You know, comrades are always fighting, so it's natural that they wear gloves. They are all boxers. Thank you, sir. Please, can you just stand up for 2 minutes and stretch before the interaction? Please, can we take our seats? Staying long in the plenary is part of the training. So, with the permission of the Director General, I want to respectfully request distinguished members of Aani for their intervention. 2 minutes each, please. Rear Admiral Isaac, retired, sir.
The chairman of the occasion, and of course, distinguished members of Aani, and of course, the expectant distinguished members. I was given 2 minutes, and because of that, I don't want to dive so much into the background, but I want to state something before I go into it.
it's like some of us, the comment made so far, try to look a little away from the core issue. The core issue here is not the orange economy in totality, but rather an aspect of the orange economy. If I understand the topic very well, it tries to emphasize on security as the enabler, or call it foundation, of having an effective orange economy. And even when we talk about economy or the security aspect, we tend to look at only at the physical security. But I think it's far beyond security, physical. Because if I recollect, when he was talking about, he mentioned about 4 different ways. The economic security itself, we talk about infrastructure, and so many other these things, which includes protection of intellectual properties and all that. And the question now is that, how do we go about it? How do we secure some of those things? And I will look at 2 aspects. And when we talk about the financial aspect of the economic as it relates, a lot of people, I think, started with the DG when he was talking, here that some people have talents and nobody to fund them. They will tell you, start, and let's say, how do I start? When, what needed to? I think we need to look at it. I think some time ago, if I'm not mistaken, the government tried to come up with setting up of, I think, a fund or so, but how that happened, we don't know. So there are talents in Nigeria, and one of the things we need to do and look at it to actually bring up this security is that financial and legal frameworks, a new initiative, are creating security through financial infrastructure. Probably we can come up with an entertaining bank whereby the fund will be set aside as you come in, probably with whatever you have. They should have a way of monitoring your production, and the money generated from there go to that particular area even before whatever is left for you should come in. With that, we have many people coming up to actually do that. Then the other aspect, so that I don't talk too much, is on infrastructural security. Yes, I think one of the ways we could achieve that is finding a means of harnessing these talents. And there is a way it was put in one of the papers out. He said, piping them, creating a pipe in which this talent will go through. And why is it necessary? With that, you have minimal effect in securing those talents. I give an example. Las Vegas, for instance, in the United States of America, is such a place. And what happened? Proper security could be secured for such a place rather than the entire this. And in our case in Nigeria, we could create film village. I think Tinapa was to be one, but today where is Tinapa? And Tinapa has gone down. Tinapa would have been a place where actors could go, film producers could go to Tinapa, music producers could go to Tinapa, studios were there in Tinapa. And if you have Tinapa, for instance, in place, bringing out of those things, you do not need to secure the whole of Cross River State to enable orange economy to thrive in Cross River State. Everybody could just move to Tinapa. Good security could be provided to Tinapa, and thereby reducing it. I think with that, I'll just start with those 2 points. And finally, I will want to appreciate also the DG for coming up with this initiative of this annual alumni lecture series. But I want to plead also that the Institute should find a way of having more interaction with, and particularly with reference to this, so that a time within every set be fixed. Say, for instance, you say May or you say August. Aani too will have it in their own program, in their calendar. It will be there. In August, there is lecture series, annual lecture series for alumni. With that, more members will prepare towards there. A date could come up later. If I prepare for August from January, irrespective of the time the date comes in, I think it will go a long way. And it will be another opportunity for alumni to visit NIPS instead of only waiting till the AGM. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Finally, the lead presenter, Thank you very much. You did not disappoint me.
Thank you so much, sir, for that intervention. May I request Engineer Gambo Umar Mohammed, MNI? 2 minutes, sir.
Mohammed Gambo Umar, get it right, please, General. Mohammed Gambo Umar. Please. That's why they call me double MG, because that's my initials and I was the monitor general of my course. Well, let me minimize the protocol. I want to say a big hello to my president, Engineer Ambassador, Emmanuel Obi Okafor. I would also like to appreciate the DG who had done everything to enable us come here for this really very important lecture. I wouldn't leave the Director of Studies and my very good friend, the professor, who was a discussant here. After all this, I will come and see you privately. Then my dear friend, the lead presenter, he calls me a mentor, but I didn't know. But thank you very much. My intervention has to do with the relation of artificial intelligence to the orange economy. I've read somewhere a few months ago that the way artificial intelligence is developing and evolving, very soon many professions will be phased out completely. So we don't have any alternative or any choice but to develop that sector. That is the orange economy. It's a very, very serious case. And I was communicating with my colleagues from China. China has erased from all its universities all courses that do not contribute directly to the economy. You can check that up. Yes, they have. Yeah. So really, we don't have a very big choice. We have to key in to the orange economy. Now, I would like to, while he was reading his paper, I was relating my experience to a visit, actually went for a retreat in Kigali, Rwanda, in a company where I'm the vice chairman. When we landed in Kigali, they took us to the hotel, and from there I noticed a lot of differences in the way they conduct themselves. The streets are extremely clean, to the extent that the following morning I had to ask one of the ministers. First, he told me that they taught people about dirt and its effects on health. So they don't need to say this Saturday at 10 o'clock, I mean, you can't come out until 10 because you are going to do what they call sanitation days. No, the people clean it because they know that, you know, they have been told that and educated about clean environments. And the second thing they did was you won't even see a cigarette butt on the ground. You won't see these leather bags, as we call them in Nigeria. They collect all of them and they use that rubbish to generate energy. And one of the things I noticed also, whenever I ask people, because I saw some of them looking like Indians or Arabs, and I asked them, are you from Rwanda? They said, yes. I say, which tribe? Nobody will tell you. They say, no, we don't want to say we are, you know, Hutu or whatever, because they have been taught after many years of violence. And this orange economy permeates the whole society, because you go in there to eat food in a certain area. The first thing they do to you is to show you that the health authorities had checked that restaurant for cleanliness, for food preservation, for other things, and they display that proudly on the wall of that restaurant. And to my surprise, They even have a museum where they kept all the weapons, well, some of the weapons that were used to kill themselves, and some pictures, gory pictures, and you have to pay to go in there. So I think that visit has opened my eyes about what we as Nigerians can do with this orange economy. We should emulate them because they are doing extremely well there. And I thank you, my dear Admiral, for the good paper. I think it was well delivered and will continue. I will ask you to send the paper to me, the virtual copy, so that I can read it all over again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Engineer Mohammed Gomo. Engineer Mohammed Gambo Umar MNI. Thank you, sir. With the kind permission of the Aani President and Chairman of the occasion, I want to jackpot to online now. So from the online platform, any intervention? From the online platform. Intervention, please. Control. Professor Mimiko, please. Oh, sorry, Professor Olufemi Awoyemi, please. At least I've issued in Professor. Professor, Mr. Olufemi Awoyemi, the floor is yours. 2 minutes, sir. Can you hear me, sir? Mr. Awoyemi, please unmute. Control. Let me take the next person.
My hand is raised too.
Go ahead, please. We can hear you. Go ahead. You have 2 minutes. Please, we appreciate you tell us your name and your sec, please. 2 minutes. We can't hear you.
General.
Okay, I can hear you now, sir. Can you hear me?
It's Professor Adeyanju speaking. Who did you ask to speak, please? It's Professor Adeyanju speaking now.
Okay, you have the floor. Go ahead. Go ahead. You have 2 minutes. Your sec,
right.
your name, your sec.
All right. Thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Okay, I'm Professor Shola Adeyanju, MNI, Sec 42, and a staff of NIPS. Let me also join to thank the presenter. It has been a very good presentation. Just to add two things very quickly. The first one is to say that I would also like us to look at it the way the presenter presented this orange economy in terms of the elements that compose it, so that we can also explore other areas. For instance, if we are talking about tourism, the issue of security is very, very central to tourism, both internal and external tourism. And I think there are other aspects, also music, language, architecture, and other things like that, so that we have a very holistic view of it. So I want to thank the presenter that he has touched on some of them, but our discussions have been limited to more of entertainment alone. Then the second thing I want to say is to say that the Director General has also directed that there will be a national summit on orange economy, which we are proposing to take place later in the year before the presidential rally, and which part of the report will fit also into the presidential rally. So those who are online and those who are present, I want to seize the opportunity to invite them to the rally, which will be holding at the National Theatre in Igomu, Lagos. So these are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, any intervention from the platform? Okay. Let's go to the participants. Quickly, 4 interventions from the participants. Questions from this side of the divide. Brigadier General George. Process your thoughts and speak to the team.
I am Brigadier General Blessing Isoken George. My question is sponsored by the Nigerian Army, sir. My question is for the lead credential, sir. The security of any community, I want to say, can be said to be as good as the strength and insurance of the well-being of the security agents. So my question is, what can the government do to ensure this in view of the recent attacks and attrition of security agents with a weakening of their power to resist these attacks in view of their inferior equipment? What can the government do to stay this? Thank you, sir.
Madam Agbo. Pass the mic to Anna from the rear.
I am Agbo Emate, sponsored by the presidency. My question is directed to the lead presenter, Rear Admiral Leye Jayeola, retired MNI. Sir, I vividly understand from your presentation that security is a foundation on which Nigeria's orange economy must be built. If so, how better and faster? The words better and faster are underscored. Can national and community security, as well as social, economic, and cyber security be legitimately checked or improved upon to address terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, violence, weak institutions, policy somersault, just by to mention a few, to scale the economy.
Next question.
For sustainability. Thank you.
Group Captain Abdul Fattah.
I am Group Captain Fatai Anyila Gani, sponsored by the Nigerian Air Force. My question goes to the lead presenter. So from your presentation, the security is a primary enabler for orange economy. It simply means that a thriving orange economy is itself a national security strategy by reducing unemployment, crime, and violent extremism, among others. My question is, if this is true, shouldn't investment in creative industries be funded from national security budget? I'd like to share your thoughts on this. Thank you, sir.
Osaho.
I am Dr. Osaho Enabulele, sponsored by the Nigerian Medical Association. While appreciating the efforts of government to address the security challenges in our country, especially as we reflect on the theme of this presentation, I like to state very preeminently that security still remains a major bugbear of the Nigerian state. There's no doubt about that. Every day we hear the news of killings, kidnappings. So the efforts, unfortunately, pale into insignificance. And the question is the fact that over the years, over the decades, there's been some level of, and if we are not in denial, some level of cumulative leadership failure and good governance. And that's why I really, I mean, I was really warmed by the narrative of the lead discussants about the issue of leadership training and good governance. I mean, that to me is the elephant in the room. And so part of the challenge, and of course the bane of the Nigerian state, is the inability to have addressed the very basic existential conditions of the Nigerian people, of which the creatives are part. The creatives are part of the Nigerian state, part of the society. And so the poverty issues, the social economic objective conditions of the people need to be addressed. And so my question now is, how can we be part of the conversations to, of course, elevate the very fundamental provisions of Chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended to make them justiciable? Because a lot of the foreign countries we have visited, they have conquered those basic existential.
Thank you very much.
So that is my question about Chapter 2. Thank you very much.
The last intervention, was Omo.
I am Isoken Omo, sponsored by the presidency. My question is, every year we've increased our budget for security, and every year the feelings of Nigerians as far as security is concerned, yes, it's worsened. So how do we match this feeling? Because the first responsibility of government is to protect life and property. And if we don't feel safe, there's no how we can translate that, increase our orange economy. So how do we match this if we can tell ourselves the truth in the room? How do we match the increase in budgetary allocation to security with the increased sense of insecurity? What can be done?
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I request our resource person to please respond to the questions asked?
Thank you very much, sir. On a lighter note, sir, just as I told Mr. President, you can see I'm gender friendly. Most of the questions came from the other side of the divide. Well, it's important for us to know, and I need to say this clearly. If you look at the presentation, I intentionally diverted from the normal style manual, and I did that deliberately. Maybe I was wearing the cap of a directing staff. What I did was just to give us the ingredients and the elements we need to tease out in coming together. That's why I did not speak to recommendations and implementation strategies. I leave that for some of us to decide on. But it's important to look at questions we have raised, and the first question from Brigadier General George, that's talking about the well-being of the security agents vis-a-vis the effect on the series of attacks and attritions. I must say that I think as far back as barely 3 or 4 days ago, SK can remind me of that. There was a position, an increase, Mr. President approval of a 80% increase in a salary structure. But in looking at that and tying it up with some other questions, until we begin to look at the definition of security from outside the physical security, we'll get some of these things wrong. If you look at the breakdown of security, I think I tried to outline some. If you go through back to McNamara in his concept of national security, you will realize that the security we're talking about is not all just the physical structure. Even in the internet protection, in all those things, they come handy. Madam, there will always be a challenge of attritions. And in strategy, they tell you the ways, means, and ends. The means can never be enough. It is now for us to localize within our space and make security issue in Nigeria as a whole society approach. When you see something, you say something. I mean, you don't need to rely on the fact that, well, it is their job to protect themselves. And I tried as much as possible to deal with that in the paper. Attrition rates will always be there, but I must comment, I'm not a politician, I'm not trying to be one, it's too late. But I think I must stress it clearly that the pay packet of the security agencies is being enhanced, as it were. But even if you make their pay packet times 50, it will never be enough, because basic economics tells you the wants are insatiable. You can never. So it's for us to now begin to walk within our space and see how we can make some things easy. What can the government do? The government can only come down to the nitty-gritty of getting individuals involved. And I think we're doing that in the church, in the mosque, our royal fathers, for them to see that if you see something, you say something. In my village, as small as it were, if a stranger enters my village today, I tell you if he's a stranger, within 1 hour, I will know. And how? What we did was to identify the farmers, the hunters, the petty traders, and the hawkers and Okada riders. We divided them into groups. These are people that know the society. They know themselves. And we gave them phone handsets with simple SIM card. When you see strangers coming in and you talk to them and you think you don't get the normal vibe, don't argue, just take a picture and send to us. It may be above your pay grade to interrogate them. Others will do that. And I think when we begin to get people to be involved, when you see strangers in the church, on the mosque, and you choose to meet with them, that tidies it up. Ako Emate, you said something about presidency, security being a foundation of orange economy. When you say foundation, it's right that I alluded to that in my paper, in the sense that for you to have good tourism, for you to have a music scene and whatever, the security must be guaranteed, not just in terms of physical security, even the security of the investment. I mean, if I'm going to put my money somewhere, I must look at the return on investment. If I'm going to get experts to come in and relate with me, so many other indices must come. So I agree with you. Security is foundational. And that's why I stress clearly that for the orange economy to thrive in Nigeria, which we have ignored hitherto, although we're trying to an extent, I think we need to be able to engage in that. I want to, with due respect to my senior colleague, the comrade, I believe strongly that that covers all of us. And this is a family house. We should be able to look at ourselves straight into our eyes and tell ourselves the truth. And when we fail to do that, we'll pay the price. And it's on that platform I cease to let us face it bare. The government is trying, there's no doubt about that. And there's no end to trying. But when we come together as distinguished participants and members, let us be able to magnify it. Let's see the danger. And then when we go outside, we can do some garnishing and packaging to see how we deliver it. On the group captain, Ochai Ayinla, you talked about funding investment in creative industry from the national security. I don't think, except I will please appeal that you take time to go through my paper again, take time to digest it. You can never fund investment from security fund. Otherwise, I think the very senior officer, Admiral Isaac, came up with a suggestion. You can create fund to encourage the actors within the orange economy. But when you now separate a fund for investment purposes, we all know that there is one purse that you don't account for, that you don't oversight, and that is the security budget. So once you hide it under security, if you give me 10 and I account for 2, I can tell you I've used 8 for security. And I'm the one that determines what. So rather than being the other way, I will suggest that identifying these various levels of orange economy sectors and see how government can encourage them through, and I think the SMEs are doing that already, getting them small amounts of money to do whatever they want to do. Dr. Osan, focus, okay, I think I've answered your question more or less, because we need to, first of all, understand the dimensions of security. When we view security from a very narrow prism, we may be forced to heap the blame on the government alone. But if we look at it, that security goes beyond that. I mean, even in my family, how do I manage? If we do some checkbacks in employment, do we profile the people we employ? Somebody is dismissed from the police, he goes and applies to another place. There's no profiling system. I know this person is a criminal, but I refuse to report him because I don't want to be involved. So for me, if you look at the security from the multifaceted areas, it saves us from looking at the man on uniform as being the only security person. As you are a security personnel in your own way. And it's okay. It's a privilege seeing you again. When we're here as the directing staff, DGSA, we took a team to Edo State on a visit, and she was among those that received us very well. So seeing her here now, it's something nice. So budget increase every year, and the fact that it does not make impact. It will never make impact so long as we don't have a proper understanding of what security is all about. Sometimes people think security is money for the boys. It's not, no. It's not so. There are basic instruments that makes security it's worthwhile. So we can be increasing salary of personnel. If the equipments are not there, if the training aspect is deficient, then it becomes another problem. And we said something about AI. AI is the in thing. I mean, the Orire examples gives us a good effect of technology and AI. But if you have people behind the instrument and they are not trained to handle it, or they are trained but the equipments are not there, then it becomes another thing. So I wouldn't say I agree with you. To sum it up, I would say for the funding on security to be meaningful, for the funding on security to be impactful, we need to be able to take time and identify those areas or those aspects of security that needs appropriate funding, not just increasing the personnel salary alone. On that note, I wouldn't know if I've been able to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, let's appreciate him again. Isoke Omo, have heard and we heard. Study Group 3 is going to Edo State. We want a repeat performance. Is that clear? Members of faculty, please, your intervention, if any. Okay. Okay, when I come down. Okay, hold on, please, faculty. So I can hold. Senior Advocate Tetengi, sir.
Thank you very much.
I'm
sorry to intervene at this juncture. There's a legal question that was asked by Dr. Osahon, and I believe that the speaker, the lead speaker, because only imbibed, may not be able to have, it might have escaped his sight. So let me address that question. And I think it was Dr. Osahon that asked the question. Now, how can you make chapter 2 of the Constitution justiciable? Let me, that is the chapter that deals with fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. Now, the Supreme Court has said it severally, that if you want to make that chapter justiciable, all you need to do is to make sure that those sections are enacted in the National Assembly. So if you want to pursue that, that particular objective, you need to sponsor a bill at the National Assembly, or you speak with members of the National Assembly, if possible, if that is their priority, that they should try as much as possible to see that chapter 2 is domiciled, and that is, there's an act of the National Assembly that domiciles it. And therefore, once that is done, then you have a cause of action. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for that professional intervention. We appreciate. Back to the faculty. Research. Doctor.
Good morning. It's a good afternoon. Thank you so much, the lead presenter and all the discussants. It's been a very wonderful time. I just want to draw the attention of the participants to the submission of Dr. Arimu.
You have not introduced yourself.
Oh, sorry. I'm Dr. Koyengozi from the Research Directorate. So I want to draw the attention of the participants to the submission of Comrade Aremu. You know, he talked about coming up with a policy and frameworks that formalize the orange economy, especially in the area of fixing hour of work for the creatives. Very important to me. You know, he actually challenged them, Sec 48, to come up with a policy that can give a voice to the creatives, you know. And another thing he mentioned was the ILO Convention 193. You know, I think we should please take it seriously. And there's another thing that also came up, the entertaining bank the entertaining bank. I think we should also explore that. And, while working on the annual report, let's interrogate all this further and see what comes out of it for us.
Thank you. Yes, Prof.
Thank you very much, moderator, for having me. I am Professor Chuba Eze, member of the directing staff. I think I should start by appreciating members of Aani for not forgetting their umbilical cords. I also wish to appreciate the lead presenter for a job well done. I was so cautiously interrogating the departments of your presentation, and each of them evoked an interrogative moment, sparked curiosity to an extent of enabling robust intellectual conversation. It was a very rich paper. But just as some people have reiterated, the big elephant in the room is security. And we know quite all right that we take for granted the issue of orange economy and its explications and other variables surrounding the concept. But then that of security is very paramount and foundational. And most of the times when we talk about security, we try to periscope it from the point of view of kinetics. And then we look at it also from the issue of what letters can solve. Security is a fundamental component of governance failure. It has implications for it. And I had wanted, if you had delved further into your work, it would have brought out very prominently the issue of physiological security. The physiological security should not be taken for granted. And that was why even Onabulele was trying to reiterate. Number one is that if you look at the World Bank statistics about Nigeria, and as you highlighted, you said that Nigeria remains a paradox, marked by extreme poverty in the midst of plenty. This is what you say. And also you went to say that the orange economy is connected to human capital. World Bank has said severally that Nigeria as an oil resource country, but only 1% of Nigerian population enjoys the oil wealth. Recently and yesterday, about 70 to 79 Nigerians are being dragged into multidimensional poverty. The value of orange economy lies on the takeaways or take home from the population we crusade as the potency of Nigeria. That Nigeria is blessed with a large population. But these populations are not empowered in all ramifications. So the issue here is, if we are 230 million, to translate the importance of creative industry and the gains which goes into consumption, there must be a tendency for the population to patronize the creative industry. Of course, you can tell me today that if you schedule a football team in Abuja and schedule in Manchester, the population to watch it in Manchester will be more than that of Abuja. The issue is physiological. So many people are poor. A lot of the population we are trying to hope on are very, very poor, and the poverty is not natural, inherent from malgovernance and failure of institutional performance. All these are challenges we have to look at and interrogate so meticulously and cautiously. Because unless we begin to treat the issue of multidimensional poverty and how can good governance trigger that, our population will not enjoy the dividends of orange economy because they don't have the bargaining power. Even schedule a cinema here, how many will go and watch it? And
thank you, Prof.
Because people are poor, people are hungry. Thank you.
General Jimo retire MNI.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm Brigadier General L. Ejimo, retired MNI, a member of the directing staff. Let me first of all appreciate members of Aani, the president, and all your entourage for this witnessing this another series of alumni lecture. Also want to appreciate the lead presenter, the contributors, discussants. Mine is a contribution based on one of the questions that was asked by Isoka Omo in relation to increase in defense budget vis-a-vis the insecurity in our country. There's always this perception that every year the defense and security budget increases. Yes, nominally, let's say arithmetically, absolute terms, check the budget every year. The defense and security budget is always increase. But if we also check the figures, discover that 85% of that budget goes to recurrent expenditure. Talk of salaries, talk of overhead, and others, leaving only 15% capital budget. So how do we manage that 15%? Proper equipment, proper infrastructure, and other things, plus of modernization of military hardware, other equipment. And also, if you check the military budgets of some African countries, if you compare them, find that even Nigeria has one of the lowest military budgets in Africa. For instance, Algeria, their military budget every year, the past 2 or 3 years, about 25 billion, compared to Nigeria, $2.4 billion. For Morocco, it's about $13.4 billion. For Egypt, $6 billion. And for South Africa, about $2.3 billion. So if you look at this spending, you see that we're still not there as far as military spending is concerned. And if you also compare our population with those of the African countries I mentioned, Nigeria will have a population of about 200 million. South Africa, 65 million, Egypt, 120 million, Algeria, 48 million, Morocco, like 8 million. So our defense spending up to now, I can say, is still inadequate compared to some of our peers in Africa. Again, if you look at percentage of defense budget to GDP, we have one of the lowest also in Africa. For Nigeria, it's about 0.8% of the GDP. For South Africa, it's about 1.1%. For Egypt, it's about 2.2%. And for Morocco, it's 5%, while for Algeria, it's 8%. So if you look at the totality of these statistics, you see that we're still not there as military spending. Consider our population. So just as we need to bring this forward so that when we are talking, we're talking from statistics, not just mere let's say. And for participants who have listened to this lecture, should be able to harness all the information so that we have something to work with in respect of your early report that will be coming up later in the year. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Vidoyen. Let me come back to the management. May I respectfully request the Director of Studies, please.
Thank you very much, moderator. Participants, it's good to have you back. Welcome back from your break. Hope you all had a nice and restful time. Did you? Ready for the real grind. So the Aani is here to give you full support and to show you that the family is one big united family. Your lead presenter came, all the lead presenter came all the way from Lagos, and that shows you that the National Institute gives birth and retains its children. We're hopeful that you will all breast the tape at the end of your 10-month course, which is coming very close to an end. I'd like to thank, of course, the president, past presidents, and all the Aani family for honoring our invitation. Even though it's your assignment, it's your baby, but you could have also opted out to do it via Zoom. But for that, we're very grateful for coming physically and for also coming to give us the moral support for the attack that we had and to show us that you are solidly behind us. So participants, now from the lecture has shown us that you should not view security from the very narrow lens of physical or territorial security. Security for the orange economy to grow includes security of finance, security of job security, the security of sustainability of the sector, security of the legal frameworks that will support the policies for the intellectual property, which is something that has come up repeatedly during all the other lectures. You also have the security of the communities and inclusion. We need to be sure that the women who go into that sector are secure enough and they will not be set aside by any government policies or any other issues that will make them feel left out in the sector. Security of, like I said, the capacity building to sustain the will of development of that sector. There are many people who are in the forefront of running the sector, the actors, the singers, but there are also many people at the back office, the technicians, the producers, the script writers, the tailoring apprentices, and so on. So you need, when you're looking at this, to populate your Pali report, to look at security from the broader perspective of security as an enabler to ensure the sustainability of the growth of that the sector in ensuring that the economy has a second stream of revenue to be able to attain Mr. President's $1 trillion project. But I think the lectures have been very, very, very educative, very enlightening, very eye-opening. Each presenter came with his own perspective. Comrade Aremu and I came up with the labor perspective. The professor came with his own perspective. And the lead presenter, of course, was able to nail everything on the head. So I think for that, we're very grateful. We've had a very interesting day. And I'm sure you're looking forward to becoming members of the alumni so that you can be legitimate members of this meeting come next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director of Study. May I now invite the President of Aani and the Chairman of this occasion, Ambassador Emmanuel Okafor, MNI. Excellency, sir.
Thank you. It has been a very wonderful afternoon, but I discovered that the claps you gave for the DOS is more than the one you are giving to me. Maybe you have forgotten that for you to have this, it is only me that can induct you. That's in a lifetime. It has been quite a very wonderful afternoon. I want to particularly thank the lead presenter, our own brother, strong general, former directing staff, and a good disciplinarian. I was telling him that if they had a combination of himself and DOS, what I observed this afternoon would not have happened. You know what I observed? Before I go into the conclusion, I discovered that majority of you could not even stay for 1 minute. You are always moving. If you have been to UN, you can have a meeting for 24 hours. All that you need to do is to discipline yourself. For example, yesterday when we were coming to Abuja, we drove for 6 hours. I deliberately did not stop. The lead scout did not stop because they were waiting for me to say, let us stop and stretch our legs. It is a way of doing what? Disciplining yourself. I just told the DOS, anytime I will be traveling, I don't eat, I don't drink. Even if I take a little coffee. But what I observed, majority of you were moving. I counted somebody who moved around 4 times or 5. I saw those who were on their iPad. Let me advise you. Your MNI is not already in place. Maybe you misunderstood my initial comments. You only have M. The N will come when you have submitted your project. And of course, you don't get certificates except your conduct and character are in place. But I know that from the way I've looked at you all, you must deliver. Congratulations in advance, but you must inculcate discipline. When you are in plenary, no iPad, no browsing, no walk around. Yeah, you may have some medical issues, one will understand, but not where everybody. I counted about 10 people who moved around. Some moved about 4 times. That is not healthy. That's not the spirit of the MNI we are talking about. It requires a lot of discipline, it requires a lot of focus. You watch what you say, you watch how you conduct yourself. In this era of social media, you don't know who is filming you somewhere, listening to your conversation. I look forward to graduating you in November. I didn't say you should overclap for me, but I am appreciating it anyway. Now, this issue of orange economy is quite very, very important. I have a statistic from the National Bureau of Statistics. They said that the GDP, that this orange economy contributes to our GDP 5.2% of Nigerian GDP in 2026. And the government projection and target is that by 2031, it will contribute 10%. So it's a very key area. That is why at the onset, I congratulate Mr. President, I congratulate the DG, and you are going to drive it. You see, the concept, the metaphor orange, is that you can squeeze orange as many times as possible without destroying it. You can license movies. You can license so many things several times over without it being destroyed. That's why we call it the creative economy. It's going to drive this process, the economy in the next years. It's just a new concept, 2013. So we look forward that this pioneer class will do a lot to it. And I thank General Latu, who brought out the perspective that security is not merely a precondition for the orange economy. It's an economic input, just like capital, just like electricity is being put in. It's just that the security is not just like politics, soldiers. No, it is an integral part of the orange economy. Therefore, I want to congratulate each and every one of us for a very successful seminar, DG, courtesy of you who initiated it. And I want to assure you that the next year on will be on a higher pedestrian. For those MNIs who have been on the platform, I want also to commend you for sustaining the spirit and encouraging our participants. DG, you have molded them very well. And remember that we are going to hand over this baton. You can see Sec 24, Professor, he's here, Tetengi, Engineer Omar, and even during our meetings, we have people for Sec 9 attending. It shows that umbilical cord which we will never sever. We represent you outside, and we just hope you'll keep the flag flying. On behalf of the Alumni Association, I want to thank the DOS, the management team. I can see you all here. You've done a very wonderful job. We can tell you that we are carrying the flags back all over the world, not only in Nigeria. When I was in UN, I used to adorn my pin. Some people ask me, what is it? I say, well, it means Ubuntu. All of us are together. But in Nigerian parlance, we say it's Mafia Nigeria Incorporated. So all of you must be your brother's keeper. You must extend hand of friendship to each and every one of you. We must lift ourselves together. What? Towards a better society. That is our motto. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, our president, for that kind words. May I now request the Director General of the Institute to please give his closing remarks. DG, sir.
Thank you, and thank you. Ambassador Okafor, I want to thank you for your honesty. One thing, yes, I said honesty. One thing about the National Institute, and I want participants to know, the management does not have the power to give you the yellow badge. All we have power to do is to prepare you towards the yellow badge. The final decision as whether you wear the yellow badge or not is taken by Aani itself. And that is the man that will decide whether you wear the yellow badge or not. Mine is to prepare you towards the yellow badge. This is the only institution in Nigeria where the management by itself cannot give yellow badge. It is an institution where management by itself cannot do admission alone. We do all of this together. Everybody here is known to Aani. And of course, at the end of the day, we are going to jointly agree that we give you the badge. So when he said you have M, you have mine is to say at this point, I'm not sure if they have any M, not to talk of N or I, but he has said something. There is an umbilical cord that ties any one of you here who eventually gets the yellow badge to even members of Sec 1. I don't think they discriminate. One thing I've seen Aani members do is that when they see anybody with a yellow badge, all they're asking is what sec, because that is what confers the legitimacy. You must belong to a sec. I once heard about someone who said it's an animal, and they said, what sec? And I was thinking, trying to remember. If you have to remember what sec you belong to, then it means that something is doubtful about your membership of the National Institute. One observation he made, which is honest, and I believe we can all improve, is that we must learn how to sit and concentrate for long hours. You need to see what those who take decisions go through. Some of us here have not had the opportunity of working or participating in politics. You slip up for 1 second, you step out for 1 second, decisions are taken and it's binding. Am I correct, sir? It's binding. You say, oh, I've been at this meeting all right. They say, well, what were you thinking or what were you looking at? And that is why when you come to plenary, I would just advise for men and women, please empty your barrels as often as you can before you enter. So when you sit down, you're able to sit for long hours. Like he said, there might be medical conditions, especially those who have certain conditions. Maybe you are diabetic and you often have to go. But then it should be a wise person that at a very little inconvenience, you are getting up and going outside. He mentioned that you can stand at the back if you are feeling pressed or if you are feeling sleepy, But it's important that we remember that part of the training is to keep you strong and resilient so that you beat your body. You spoke about discipline. Discipline, it is your body and it is your mind that dictates what will happen. To the group of participants I took to London, that went with us to London, what was it I was telling them? I said, it is the spirit of man that conquers. It is your spirit that tells you, even when your body is saying, I can't go, that tells that body to keep going. You remember the case of the lady that is on crutches? As far as those distances were from our hotel to the train station, anytime she was feeling tired, we kept telling her, it is your spirit that will drive you, not your physical disability at the time. So as part of your training, you must learn how to stay tough, how to stay resilient, and how to ensure that you do not disturb meetings by moving back and forth. That MNI you wear must always show. Those of us who have associated with the National Institute, we suffer a lot. And you will know, you go to events, they will tell you the events are happening at, the event will happen at 10. MNIs are there at 9:50, expecting events to start as I went due. But most of the time, you just that they sit waiting for events to start at 11. But it is tough for MNIs to say that, oh, they will not start. Because you have learned from here that 10 is 10. So when you go to a bill, so you MNIs are here, we know that is what you always do. And that is the kind of training we get here. Well, I've been telling them in Abuja, I say, you suffer us. You will say an event is happening at 10. MNIs are there, but this event is not even starting. Sometimes 11:30, they are still struggling to start. But we must continue to show the example by being prompt, by doing things that Nigerians are not used to. We have listened to very insightful lectures, and I must thank you, Rear Admiral. I was telling some of the executive members, I said, the lecture today appears to be like a summary of what the Padley report should be like. And I was sending a message to the director of studies that who is the rapporteur? So I could be looking at him to be saying, don't miss these moments. Because your Padley report is not going to be what you think it should be all by yourself. It is the putting together of all you have had over time. And some of these lectures will take you so close to the report. And that is why I think we should stand up and acknowledge the beautiful lecture the general gave us today. Please sit down, sir. Thank you. Yes, you. Yeah. Yes, thank you very much, Rear Admiral, for trying to write the Padley report for them. And of course, I didn't expect anything. Please, you can sit down. From the professors and the intervention of the man who is on minimum wage, but he's on minimum wage because he decided to commit class suicide. Comrade Isarem, while being a comrade, accepted to take government position, which means that he has committed class suicide. I know somebody else who has committed suicide, Lumumba. Lumumba is a comrade, and there is also, and there is Comrade Ladan. So we see comrades committing class suicide for the benefit of the larger Nigerian society, because they are recognizing that we cannot grow our country by being narrow channeling what we think about. We have to broaden up and open ourselves to new learning and understanding what the nation is about. I told somebody yesterday, I said, I started out life as a communist. From being a communist, I became a socialist. Then from being a socialist, I became a capitalist. But now I'm a compassionate capitalist. Because if you are going to have that better Nigerian society, I don't think we can get it by being strictly communist. In fact, communism won't take us close.
And I've told people, I said, how far can socialism take us? As far as human beings will decide. And socialism is telling us that you work as hard as your talent and physical energy can take you to bake the bread. But then when the bread is baked, you only take the little that you need. We ask ourselves, how fair is that? And then we know from what we have had since we came that every individual is imbued with a talent. Some may not have the creative talent of Davido, but some have the creative talent of the guy that did Cadify, Wale Boremo. We all have different talents, and those talents have to be compensated for. There has to be a reward. Some did not inherit land, which is a very critical part of production, but they have talents in them. And if you are going to grow Nigerian GDP, I've always said it, and the presidency knows, I said we can grow at 12, 15% our economy if we fire on all cylinders. Look back, participants, look back at our 3 last value reports and ask yourself if it is extant optimism that the DG goes everywhere and says that we can do 15%. And of course, if you look at the figure, those of you who are economists, we are growing our population at 3.2. And then you are growing GDP at 2.8. You are not growing. So if you are going to change quickly, then we have to grow GDP at nearly 12% if you are going to catch up. And that is the duty of all of you who have been kept here. No society, the societies you see, those places you have gone to and you are saying, hey, why is Nigeria not like this? Why is Nigeria? It is because they are deliberate, they crunch their figures and they find the targets for growth. Things just do not happen. I've told people who care to know, I said, I live in America and I participated in their process and I know that they don't take anything for granted. What they want their country to be in 10 years, they put in place. And the things they are going to steal from other countries, they also put in place. They say Africa is poor. Africa is poor because we just allow things to happen. During Bowman, yes, they built their countries very well, but ask questions. If you are giving 20 people to work for you for 30 years and you don't pay them, won't you be rich? You will be rich. Because all those slaves that worked, they worked almost for nothing. Unfortunately, we don't have slaves to work for us. What we have are our resources, both physical and human. So we have to be deliberate about changing these things. So we need to ensure that we think through these things. The orange economy has the power to liberate the millions of Nigerians who are living in poverty right now. Now, dears, you are going to find this man because we have said that when you come to plenary, you can't keep, your head must stand by itself, sir. Your head must stand by itself. This hand is not supporting any head. Have you seen any of these MNIs supporting their head with their hand? It's part of the NIPS training. I kept looking at you and you didn't get it. That is the toughness of this training. You don't go to UN meetings and you are like this. They take your country, they take it that your country is not serious, that you came here to rest. This is not a place where you find rest. I'm sorry. When you live here, go and find rest outside of NIPS. One thing I've always told people is that nobody, and I gave opportunity where you guys say, if you were asked to come and you didn't really want to come, you could opt out. I will look for reasons for you and tell your organization why we are sending you back. You all wanted to come. I believe that. Am I correct? I know some people didn't want to come, but they didn't honor. But I will always ask that question. If you want to be an MNI, you must pay your dues. Okay?
People will say that, oh, we are very disciplined. Yes, we are civilians, we are disciplined. It is not only in the military that discipline occurs. And the discipline of the civilian is even more useful than that of the military, because the military only they partake in the defense of the nation. But you are going to be in every aspect of the Nigerian ecosystem, and we expect so much from you. At the subnational level, you have listened to what has to be done concerning the orange economy. This is not something for the federal government alone. Every state can do something. Go back, those of you who came from the states, let your governors know that they can do something. At every stage, we can do something. And we have listened to fantastic lectures. Take the one that you can work with, and let us begin to make a difference in our nation. It doesn't get bigger than this. And I believe you can play the big role. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And to draw the curtains for the day, and in line with NIST time manual, whenever we receive lectures of this magnitude, the beneficiaries of the lectures are requested to come and say a big vote of thanks to our distinguished MNIs. To do this, who do I call now? Who do I call? Who do I call? Navy Captain Obaji. Why is it that your hearts are beat? Your hearts were beating. May they not call me.
The chairman of the alumni of the National Institute, Ambassador Emmanuel Obi Okafor, MNI, the Director General of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Professor Ayo Omotayo, our esteemed lead presenter, distinguished discussants, our very important guests and august visitors, the Acting Director of Studies, members of faculty, fellow participants of Senior Executive Course 48 of 2026. Good afternoon. I am Navy Captain Zaid Idowu Agbaje, sponsored by the Nigerian Navy. In the past 3 hours, 45 minutes or thereabout, and as part of the distinguished alumni lecture series, we have listened to a lecture and discussions on the orange economy and entrepreneurship for sustainable development in Nigeria, security as a primary enabler. As participants of SEC 48 of 2026, we are now better informed on entrepreneurship as the operational engine of the orange economy, with security as a primary enabler, especially the theoretical and policy perspective. Sir, your lecture, discussions, and interactive sessions were highly informative, concise, intellectually invigorating, and thought-provoking. It has broadened our knowledge and understanding on the developmental dimensions of sustainable development, the opportunities that abound in the Nigerian orange economy, and how insecurity constrains the development of this sector, amongst others. Without any doubt, sir, the lesson we have learned today during this session will be integrated into our final presidential parley report. On this note, on behalf of the Director General, management staff, and participants of Senior Executive Course 48 of 2026, I sincerely thank you for taking our time to deliver this well-packaged lecture and for the opportunity accorded to us to benefit from your wealth of experience. It is hoped that when next institute requires your assistance in the pursuit of our objectives, you would kindly oblige. We wish you safe journey back to your destinations, and once again, thank you very much and God bless.
Finally, we're going to have group photograph at the next photograph stands outside. Thereafter, we all proceed for lunch. We're also requesting our guests from Aani from Abuja to also join us for the lunch. Then we reconvene by 13:55 hours for a drama presentation that will feature Zebudaya, Ringuri, and Ovuluria. So please don't miss it. With the permission of the DG. Sir? 5 minutes to 2. So I want to thank members of Aani that join us online and every other person for being part of this show. Thank you and God bless. Photograph outside, please. Please, the distinguished and the DG should please stay fast. Participants, quickly move out for the group photograph. When you are set, we invite the president and the DG and other dignitaries. Please make it quickly. Snappy, please. Participant, quickly, snappy. Joyce, why are you seated? What is the name of that? Members of faculty, please join up. Members of faculty, please join us outside.